What happens when a Hollywood star tries to silence his co-star with a $400 million lawsuit and ends up being the one exposed instead? This week, Blake Lively didn't just win a legal battle. She delivered a public courtroom-level takedown that left the industry buzzing. After months of mounting tension, shocking accusations, and one of the most aggressive defamation suits in celebrity history, a federal judge just threw out Justin Baldoni's entire case. And the way it collapsed, brutal. But this wasn't just about legal technicalities. Behind the scenes, it was a power struggle laced with harassment claims, retaliation, and a so-called smear campaign that nearly pulled Ryan Reynolds and the New York Times into the crossfire. Now, Blake's not just celebrating, she's going on the offensive. Here's how she flipped the script, and why the fallout is just beginning. It all started with a lawsuit that felt more like a Hollywood plot twist than a real court filing. In January, actor and director Justin Baldoni filed a jaw-dropping $400 million defamation suit against Blake Lively, his co-star in the film It Ends With Us. But it didn't stop there. The lawsuit also named Ryan Reynolds, Blake's husband, and even the New York Times as part of what Baldoni claimed was a coordinated smear campaign designed to destroy his reputation. At the heart of the case, Lively's own civil rights complaint, where she accused Baldoni of sexual harassment and emotional abuse during the film's production. Baldoni fired back hard, calling her claims false and accusing her of using the media and legal system to publicly humiliate him. What followed was an escalating courtroom drama, with headlines, high-profile names, and massive sums of money all in play. But if Baldoni thought the sheer size of his lawsuit would silence his critics, he was about to get a harsh dose of reality. When the ruling finally came down, it wasn't just a dismissal, it was a dismantling. Judge Louis J. Liman didn't mince words. In his written decision, he made it clear Baldoni's lawsuit lacked any real legal foundation. The central claim that Blake Lively defamed him fell apart immediately. Why? Because her statements came from an official civil rights complaint, which are legally protected under privileged speech. But it didn't end there. The judge went further, addressing the other names Baldoni dragged into the case: Ryan Reynolds, Blake's longtime publicist Leslie Sloan, and even the New York Times. If you're hooked on this courtroom chaos, please leave a like and subscribe. Liman wrote that Baldoni failed to show any evidence that these parties acted with actual malice, the legal standard required for defamation. In other words, not only were the statements likely based on fact, but there was zero proof they were made with reckless disregard for the truth. It was a complete legal collapse. Baldoni's $400 million claim was tossed out entirely, and with it, any credibility the lawsuit once had. But Blake wasn't just relieved, she was ready to strike back. Blake Lively didn't just take the win and walk away quietly. Hours after the judge's ruling, she addressed her followers directly, posting a powerful message to her Instagram stories. Without naming names, she made her point loud and clear. Like so many others, I felt the pain of a retaliatory lawsuit. She acknowledged the emotional toll but made it clear this fight wasn't just about her. It was about every woman who's ever been intimidated into silence. While the suit against me was defeated, she wrote, so many don't have the resources to fight back. Her message wasn't just personal, it was political, emotional, and meant to resonate. She closed with a promise to keep speaking up. I will never stop appreciating or advocating for you. It wasn't just a clapback, it was a rallying cry. And while her tone was graceful, her legal team took a much sharper edge. While Blake kept her public tone thoughtful and composed, her legal team wasted no time turning defense into offense. In a pointed statement, her attorneys described the $400 million lawsuit as nothing more than a sham, a blatant act of retaliation meant to intimidate and punish her for speaking out. But here's where it gets serious. They're now planning to go after Baldoni for bringing what they call abusive litigation. That means Blake and her team are preparing to seek attorneys' fees, treble damages and punitive damages, the legal equivalent of throwing the suit back in his face, with interest. In short, this wasn't just a win, it was a setup for a counterpunch. Baldoni might have tried to shut her down, but Blake Lively isn't just walking away vindicated, she's walking back into court with power on her side. But how did things get so messy between them in the first place? To understand that, you have to go back to where this feud really began. What started as a Hollywood collaboration spiraled into one of the most toxic behind-the-scenes fallouts in recent memory. The tension between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni didn't begin in court, it began on set. In August 2024, during the press tour for their film It Ends With Us, rumours began to swirl about friction between the two. Fans noticed awkward interactions, cold body language, and noticeably separate media appearances. But few knew just how deep the divide had grown. By December, things exploded. Blake filed a formal complaint accusing Baldoni of sexual harassment and inappropriate behaviour during production. A week later, she escalated with a full lawsuit, alleging that Baldoni had orchestrated a deliberate smear campaign against her, one meant to silence her, discredit her, and shatter her reputation in the industry. Her complaint described not just unwanted advances, but a pattern of manipulation and psychological pressure. Baldoni, for his part, denied every allegation and painted himself as the real victim, setting the stage for the legal brawl that followed. But once the lawsuit started flying, so did the accusations, and they pulled more than just the co-stars into the fire. As tensions escalated, the courtroom battle turned into all-out legal warfare. Justin Baldoni didn't just deny Blake's allegations, he launched a counterattack that dragged even more names into the drama. Suddenly, Reynolds, Blake's husband, and the New York Times were listed as co-defendants in Baldoni's retaliatory lawsuit, accused of participating in a smear campaign to destroy his career. Then came a move that shifted the tone of the case entirely. Baldoni's attorneys attempted to obtain Blake's private medical and mental health records, pushing her to drop her emotional distress claim to protect her privacy. It was a high-pressure tactic, and it didn't go unnoticed. By the time it all hit the courtroom, it was clear. This wasn't about justice anymore. It was about intimidation, power plays, and trying to force silence through legal exhaustion. But the judge's response to that pressure, it would speak volumes. When Judge Louis J. Liman issued his ruling, it wasn't just a legal decision, it was a public statement. He didn't tiptoe around the facts or soften the blow. In clear, pointed language, he dismantled every major claim in Baldoni's $400 million lawsuit. The court found that Blake Lively's statements, made through her formal complaint to the California Civil Rights Department, were fully protected by law. Privileged speech, untouchable, Baldoni's entire foundation crumbled right there. But Liman went even further. He addressed Baldoni's accusations against Reynolds, Leslie Sloan, and the New York Times, noting that there was no indication any of them acted with actual malice, meaning they didn't knowingly lie or even have a reason to believe the statements were false. Without that, there's no defamation case, period. With a few decisive paragraphs, the judge threw out the entire lawsuit and made it clear this wasn't a legitimate legal action, it was a retaliatory strike, and it failed. Still, the legal battle might be over, but the message it sends is just beginning to ripple through Hollywood.